Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. We are very excited to have you all here. Everyone's piling in at a rapid rate. I'm going to start sharing and we are going to get straight to it. No time to waste. Sorry. So good afternoon. I am Julie. I am the Content and Marketing Manager at Because. I am dialing in from a very cold, miserable South Africa this morning, and we've got our guest speaker, Jennifer, who is calling in from Germany. And then we've got Jahanzeb Ahmed, our Chief Commercial Officer, who is calling in from Denmark. So we are phoning in from all over. We're dialing in from all over, and we are very excited to be here. I'm going to just kick it off with a tiny bit of housekeeping before I hand it over to Jazz. So please mute yourselves. You all are automatically muted, but feel free to unmute yourself if you have a question. Please feel free to add questions to the Q&A button on top of the poll at any point. We will address the questions at the end of the presentation, but please feel free to add them already from the beginning, and you will receive a recording of this presentation afterwards. Before we kick off with a poll, I just want to run through the agenda. We have a poll which is going to pop up on your screen. We will then go into Jazz's section, which is around how corporate buyers decide regarding sustainability travel bids today in the industry. Then we will look at what good sustainability data looks like. We will do a very brief 10-minute demo on our RFP offering in Because, and then we are going to hear from Jennifer Klein from Avito, who are BCD Travel's consulting arm, and we are going to end with our very juicy Q&A always. Apologies, I'm going to launch the poll. It's going to pop up on your screen. If I could ask everyone to please very kindly answer the questions on your poll. Is it popping up on your screen, Jazz? Is it all good on your side? Okay. Okay, I think that's enough time for the poll. Thanks so much to everyone who's answered. So poll question number 1, how is your organization currently managing sustainability data for RFPs? It's a pretty outstanding majority on mostly manual spreadsheets and emails still, which is expected, but quite scary in this day and age with all the amazing softwares that are available. And second and third answers were around we have a dedicated platform or tool, amazing, and it's not applicable to my organization. And the second question, what's your biggest blocker when responding to sustainability questions in RFPs? Also a big outlier being getting accurate data from individual properties being the biggest challenge. And the second biggest challenge being not knowing which frameworks or metrics buyers actually want. Wow. Very, very interesting. So the clarity is not there around the sort of data that's expected from you. Okay, sorry, I'm sharing again. Apologies for the lack of technical flow. Jazz, can you see all good? Back on the screen. Amazing. Okay, so over to our awesome Chief Commercial Officer, Jahan Zeeb, who is also our co-founder for Because. Over to you, Jazz.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and so delighted that so many of you have joined. As Julie mentioned, I am the Chief Commercial Officer and one of the co-founders behind Because. I'm not going to go too much about myself because the topic of today is RFPs and sustainability data. So Julie, if you can please go over to the next slide. Just to briefly introduce ourselves, we're Because. What we basically do is we sit at the central node in the travel ecosystem, managing sustainability data for a bunch of different actors. In the one place, we help marketplaces like Booking, Google, others get data on which hotels are certified. On the second, we help certifications pass this data through our platform to the marketplaces. And finally, we help different hotel chains and hotels on managing their sustainability data. We've been doing this for quite so many years, and our, you can say, grounding principle in all of our solutions is one, in order to solve this problem, we have to look at it as an ecosystem. You can simply not look at it singularly through just one lens. You have to broaden that scope. And second is, in order to truly solve the challenges, we need to make sure that there's win-win-win solutions, something that works for all the parties involved. Today is a great example of that, which I'm really, really excited to show you later in the webinar. But to start off with, let's look into the space of procurement. So Julie, please, next slide. Great. So what's been happening lately? And this isn't last year lately, this is a couple of years actually. We're seeing the procurement landscape fundamentally change. The regulatory pressure on CSRD, both from it being there, going slightly away, coming back, has put pressure on hotels and hotel chains to collect their sustainability data. Now, while it might not affect you directly, it does affect in RFPs because many of the corporate clients that have to report on sustainability are oh, Julie, the slide's going to the next one.
Apologies.
No worries. Are basically asking for sustainability data from their suppliers, and that includes yourself. That's why in RFPs, we're seeing more requests on what is the sustainability of the hotels in different scopes. Secondly, sustainability targets are now being baked into procurement OKRs. So we're seeing different things such as some corporates, for example, saying that a hotel has to be certified with a certain certification in order to be part of their policy. So we're seeing this being baked into the corporate's policies. And finally, we're seeing when the choice of price is the same, so it's still not in all cases above price, but at least when the price is the same, sustainability becomes a determining factor to choose one or the other. So this is what we're seeing happening lately in the procurement landscape. Next slide, please. But to wrap it all up, a study from HRS shows that 90% of companies now place sustainability among their top 3 RFP priorities. Now that definitely shows how important the sustainability data is in making sure that you win the RFP. Another statistic from the same study also shows that having sustainability data merely present gives you 15% more visibility amongst corporate buyers, but also amongst daily consumers. Next slide, please. So if the demand is there, what's happening? Now, everyone in this call knows this better than us. You've experienced the pains day to day. And if we look at it from different angles, first of all, from a hotel property point of view, it's another data request and you are already at full capacity. You have to attend to guests, you have to attend to the day-to-day operations, and collecting this data and sharing it over and over again in the same answers, same questions to different RFPs is extensive work. On a corporate level, from a chain perspective or portfolio perspective, getting the data, which many of you also shared in the poll, from properties is also an extensive amount of work. There's constant follow-ups. There's different frameworks with different questions. Sometimes it's frameworks with the same question. So which ones do you prioritize? Which ones give you the most impact? And finally, ownership teams sometimes sit back and think, well, the sustainability data is not there, but why we're losing bids? Could it be because of that? And we're seeing that happen more often and often, that even though that a hotel or a chain might have the sustainability data, simply without streamlining it across the organization, it's just not included in the bids. It's not included as part of it, even though that they're doing a lot on their sustainability efforts. Next slide, please. Another thing which is important in this is that speed matters. It's really, really important. And just like everything else in RFPs, the first ones that submit the bid, CVent has found that over 80% of them get the contract. So if you're spending weeks on collecting sustainability data from your part and don't have it at hand, can sometimes results in losing the bid merely because of the speed. So the solution is not just having a repository of sustainability data. The solution is building a system that allows you to constantly update this and keep it live, streamlined with the industry. Now, this is next slide, please, Julie. Sorry, guys, we have a timer that keeps going over in the slides, so that's why they're moving along. But make sure that we stay on time. So let me show you some insights from one of our hotel chain clients. We work with Sonesta, who at that point had 1,200 hotels. They reported that they had 20,000 RFPs annually. And when it came to the sustainability section, that data was fragmented. When we started working with them on this challenge, our aim was to fix it before the next reporting cycle. So at that time, from some of the information we found was that sales managers and others were spending more than 60 minutes on the per RFP on just the sustainability section alone. Now, if accumulating that was a whole week's work just for that section for one manager. And this was collecting data from multiple different sources. So what do we do at Because? Well, we started with looking at what is already available. We looked at what data does the HQ have that we could pre-populate into the existing forms. Because why ask hotels to report that data when it already exists in another source and we could automate that? From there, once we have put the data into the platform, we looked at, well, how many times can we reuse the same answer in different frameworks? So across GBTA questions to HRS and other RFP frameworks, so that you answer once and reuse everywhere. This resulted in the sales teams now actually having a full ESG report ready at hand that they could use. This resulted in it being an evolutionary approach where you don't have to answer the same question over and over again, but rather answer it once and then make sure that that is reused everywhere. This freed up, as you could imagine, a lot of time, both from the HQ and the properties, and ensured that sustainability data was present in the RFPs, in the 20,000 RFPs that they receive annually. Yeah. Next slide, please, Julie. All of this was possible on the technology that we've built in Because platform. It's one platform that basically meets the requirements of different departments within a hotel chain. RFP and commercial bids is one of them. It's a single source of truth that collects all data and reuses it across everywhere and ensures that it is verifiable or audit ready always. It includes calculators that are industry known, such as HCMI and HWMI, to ensure that the submissions are credible and follow industry methodology. But now I've spoken a lot about the whole landscape, and what's always better than speaking about it is showing you it. So I'm going to take over the screen, Julie, if that's okay, and actually give you a live demo of how this works inside the Because platform. Before I go ahead, let me just see if I can bring you up here. Julie, can you see my screen? If you can give me a yes or no verbally.
Yeah, looking good.
Perfect. Great. All right, well, let's jump into the demo. So what you're seeing in front of you is what we call an HQ profile. Now, as part of this demo, I'm actually going to show you two sides of the same scope. First of all, we're going to show you from a hotel chain or portfolio perspective how you can manage RFPs or the sustainability section in RFPs and Because. And then to the other side, I will also take it through from the hotel, a single property perspective, how you can do the same thing. So in front of me, I have our task hub. And currently we're at the hotel chain level. We're going to create a new rollout. which is an RFP data request. We're going to select the framework we want to start collecting data on. Just a second, sorry. Start that again. RFP data request. Next, we're going to select the framework we would like. And we're going to select the season. And then it's optional to put in a deadline. Just for the purpose of this demo, I'm going to add a deadline in a week. Go to next. And now the hotel chain can choose, well, who should this be sent out to? We're going to select all the groups and all of the properties within that. From here, we're going to add a tag. And just to identify what type of task it is, this is RFP related. And you can add in a short description for your hotels to do. So please fill out for BCD. We're going to make it a priority so that it comes up first on the hotel's account. And press save. Now, before this is shared with the individual hotels, let's start with helping them on their journey. So what data do I have from a hotel chain that I can pre-fill that applies to all of the hotels? Well, one question that comes to mind in the GBTA questionnaire is, if I remember properly, it is here. Does your hotel or parent company have formal sustainability or ESG policies or plans with specific and trackable goals or measurements? Now, from the perspective of a hotel chain, if I answer yes to this, it will be the same for all of the hotels in my portfolio. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and press save. I'm then going to go through the rest of the questions and fill out anything I can that applies to all of the hotels so that they don't have to sit and answer that question. I'm then going to share. And we will not notify, we can notify assigned establishments over mail, but we're not going to do that in this demo and share that. Now, before I connect, let's take you over to what happens now for a hotel. White Lotus is a hotel that's part of the Red Lotus group. They go into their My Data collection area and can see the request coming up either in My Data collection area or also go over as a task and see that the task has been assigned to myself on filling out this framework. I can then continue. And what I can see here is that the hotel has already answered this question, which is pre-filled. I can then go ahead and answer the remaining questions that there might be. And what you're seeing here is that there's already data in the platform on this hotel, specifically on the different questions. Now, on a question-to-question level, you can upload files, omit the question, and also use the AI advisor to understand what do I need to answer, what type of answer does this question require, what does this question mean, so you have a better understanding of what type of information you need to provide. Once I've completed that, I can mark it as completed. This will then show up as a completed framework. And going back to the chain, I get full overview of how are my hotels progressing. So now that I completed that, you can see White Lotus has completed it. It's answered 4 out of 50 questions. You can see what questions have they answered. And you can see the progress on an individual hotel to hotel level. You can even remind them to fill out the questionnaire, or you can also go into review and see, well, specifically what questions has this hotel answered in this framework. Great. Now I'm going to take it over to, now imagine all the questions are answered by all the hotels. Well, the next thing is ensuring that this connects to the different providers. Now, this was specifically for BCD Travel. Here, I can go ahead and manage the connections. What this would entail is adding the ID you have for BCD Travel. And hereby, the live API from us to that platform would then allow you to distribute this data. So there will be no Excels involved. The data will go streamline directly to the different marketplaces, and all you need to do is add in the ID or choose whether you want to share this data. Taking this to the hotel. If you are a hotel where the chain is not currently on the Because platform, that doesn't mean you cannot already use this. You're able to go into directly the RFP Center and start filling out the different frameworks. Now I'm just going to take it to here quickly. And we have completed one of the tasks, which is this one. But if you're a hotel, I would go into the RFP Center, say I want to complete the HRS Green Stay Initiative, press start. And just like the other frameworks, you will fill out in the same view and format the different questions there is. Once you filled it out, you can mark it as completed and send it to HRS. The beauty of this platform here happens when, just going to see over here, these 4 questions that have been already answered in BCD Travel have been reused to answer in HRS Green Stay. So this is where we at Because connect the different frameworks to each other to ensure that you're answering the same question only once, and we're reusing it wherever necessary. That was the demo that I wanted to share. Just going to remove that and give the mic back to Julie. But thank you so much for staying on board and hearing my presentation and seeing the demo. I would now like to pass it over to Jennifer to take us through how BCD Travel, or the Adviso arm of BCD Travel, works.
Thanks,
You're muted,
Jazz.
Julie.
Oh, sorry. Can you see my screen? Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes, now we do.
Looking good?
It's in presenter mode.
Apologies. There we go. Happy?
Perfect. Yes, that looks lovely. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thanks so much, Jazz, for the great demo. That was really interesting. Hi, everyone. So I'm Jennifer. I'm a consultant at Avito. And today I'm going to kind of first talk a little bit about who we are at Avito, what we do on the sustainability side, and then I'm going to talk about the RFPs and how we are finding solutions to really use that data and influence travelers and buyers. So Julie, would you mind going to the next slide? So as I already kindly said, Avito is the consulting arm of BCD Travel. So in Avito, we have practice areas that are dedicated to air, hotel, multimodal transportation, traveler engagement, and sustainability. And the pie chart that you see here is a really nice snapshot of how we work. So basically what we do is we take complex business travel data, and then using our intelligence and analytics, we turn it into practical insights and recommendations across spend management, traveler engagement, and sustainability. Next slide, please. All right, so within Avito, I'm part of the sustainability consulting team. So for the sustainability consulting team, our work really starts with the data. We take the raw business travel data, for example, from BCD, and we precisely calculate emissions for air, rail, hotel, and car using our Gate 4 methodology. For air travel, our methodology accounts for factors like aircraft type, load factors, cabin class, so we can capture real emission differences between flights. And for hotels, we look at elements such as the regional carbon intensity, market tier, amenities, because a hotel's footprint is really strongly influenced by where it operates and how it's run. And this allows us to reflect real differences in emissions between properties. We then use this emission data to help organizations meet their sustainability targets by turning it into practical data-driven recommendations. For example, like traveling less, traveling better, and helping them choose the right suppliers and partners that will help them reach their goals. Finally, the last thing we can do to help organizations to achieve these targets is by targeted traveler communications. So for example, by nudging travelers at point of sale to book more sustainable options, such as hotels with recognized eco certifications, or encouraging travelers to take the train instead of flying. And you can see an example of one of these nudges at POS at the bottom right-hand corner of the slide. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so with that said, how this relates to RFPs is, I'm sure as all of you are aware, sustainability questions are now a very standard part of almost all travel RFPs. And that's a really good thing. Buyers care about sustainability data. The challenge we have is, how do we use this data? Answers are often difficult to interpret, compare, and use consistently. A good example of this is eco-certifications. So a hotel has an eco-certification, but what does that really tell us about its environmental impact? Does that translate into lower emissions, better water energy management, or is it primarily a reporting framework? Without a structured approach, buyers really struggle to evaluate their entire hotel program that stretches across different regions, property types, and brands. We had similar challenges on the air side, which is why we developed an airline ranking system, which brings different sustainability factors together in a way that's really easy to understand and put together. And with that same thinking, it led us to develop the Hotel Sustainability Index. And the goal of this index was to bring structure and clarity into the hotel sustainability data. So RFP responses can really support hotel decisions and recommendations. Next slide, please. All right, so now I'm going to talk a little bit more about our Hotel Sustainability Index. So as I mentioned on the previous slide, we built this to help make hotel data easier to interpret, compare, and to actually use. When we started building the index, we really wanted to build a simple but robust way to assess and identify a hotel's sustainability at a glance. We didn't want to create something that was technical or complex, but really a tool that travel managers, travelers, and hotels, basically anyone, could look at and quickly understand. The index is built from data from multiple sources, including data that is directly from the hotel chains, RFP answers, and from eco-certifications. And when we developed the scoring methodology, we really wanted to keep a couple things in mind. Firstly, we took a deliberately holistic view. For hotels, sustainability isn't just about CO2, although don't get me wrong, CO2 is still really important, but it alone doesn't tell the full story. That's why we also look at things such as energy use, water use, which can be quite significant for hotels, and resource management, such as plastic use and recycling. Secondly, we really wanted to think about how we assess performance across different markets. For example, a hotel that's located somewhere with high regional carbon intensity will always have absolute higher emissions than a hotel located somewhere with a lower regional carbon intensity. That's why we take both absolute and relative emissions into account, and also we look at how a hotel performs against its peers. So, for example, it's not fair to compare a hotel that's in China with one that's sitting in France. So we compare both. And lastly, an important thing is this index will soon be visible at point of sale, so that sustainability can play a role at the moment the booking decision is made and not just in reporting after the fact. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so as I kind of just touched on, one big challenge that we have in sustainability is that sustainability data often ends up living in reports and on dashboards that travelers actually never see. Therefore, it's really hard for people to understand the real impact that their travel choices have. BCD has been working to change that by making emissions visible at point of sale. So travelers can really see the impact of what they're choosing while they're making the decision and not after the trip has already been booked. So now emissions calculated with either DEFRA or Gate 4 are integrated directly into the OBT and displayed alongside the flight, hotel, or other trip options. So, and you can kind of see an example of this on the screenshot. You see that they have the flight and directly underneath of it is the total emissions. This means that emissions become part of the decision-making process for the traveler, just like price, schedule, location, and availability. Additionally, clients can also choose to introduce a carbon fee at point of sale. So this basically puts a dollar amount on each ton of CO2, which means that when this price has been set, that the traveler will see alongside the trip price, a carbon price directly in the same integrated total cost view, which you can also see on the screenshot that right underneath the flight price is the CO2 price. And this, having the price in a dollar amount, really makes the environmental impact more tangible and allows sustainability to be part of the financial decision. And what's really exciting here is that the carbon fee is not just theoretical, but it can actually be directly collected at point of sale. So this means that alongside when you pay for the flight price, the CO2 price will also be charged. So these funds are then collected, and then the client can decide how they want to use them. They can be directly invested into, for example, sustainable aviation fuel, offsetting projects, or they can be returned to the client to support other internal initiatives. It's really flexible and up to the client and their strategy. But the big idea here is that sustainability is no longer just an abstract concept or a reporting layer. It really is becoming a real integrated part of decision and pricing right at the moment the trip is booked. Okay, next slide. So from everything I just said, which I know it was a lot, there's 3 key things I'd really like you to take away. First is orders of magnitude matter. So not every action has the same impact. If you want to make real progress, you need to prioritize the levers that makes the biggest difference. So for hotels, that means CO2, but also paying attention to your water use, energy use, which can be really significant. Secondly, sustainability data is important. In RFPs, everyone has answers, but those answers are often difficult to compare. And when data is consistent and comparable, it becomes a real differentiator and can help set suppliers apart. And when you think about this data also being visible at the point of sale, sustainability starts to actively influence travelers' choices and will become an advantage. And third, smarter travel choices are essential to meet our targets. To meet our carbon goals, sustainability has to be part of everyday decisions. From the moment the trip is booked, sustainability metrics need to be considered just as seriously as things like price, which requires suppliers to provide clear and usable data. So overall, my message is focus where it matters the most. Sustainability data is important and will set you apart. And remember that sustainability is increasingly being considered at POS. So thank you so much for your time. I'll pass it back to you, Julie.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Jennifer. That was so helpful and such awesome insights from like the big, bulky industry-wide level all the way down to the real nitty-gritty RFP level. So thanks so much. Before we kick off our Q&A, I just would like to raise knowledge around this awesome report that we've released quite recently called our Milestone Report. It covers, because of growth, the state of sustainability data across the travel ecosystem and what this data tells us about where hotel chains and TMCs need to be heading. So if you would like to give that QR code a little scan, you can then read the report on your phone later. Otherwise, I will put the link on our chat so you can download the report to your desktop or to your laptop if you would like to read it on your computer. But it's really worth your time and is actually a very simple, lovely, quick read. So enjoy. And let's head over to some questions which have been raised by members of the audience already. And I will kick it off with a question for Jazz. If you don't mind, Jazz, is your camera back on? It is. Welcome back. You are muted, just so you know when you get there. But first question for you, Jazz. Which RFP platforms does Because integrate with right now?
Yeah, so today we are connected to HRS on all levels. We are also connected to CVent meetings. They follow the GBTA procurement standard. We are, as BCD, or the consulting arm of BCD is in the conversations today, also looking to ways to connect there. We are already connected on the certification piece, where BCD Travel and Advito collects data on which hotels have what certification, and now extending or looking to extend that arm to the new Hotel Sustainability Index.
That's a lot. Thank you. You guys are doing amazing things. And Jennifer, we had a question previously submitted by one of our attendees before the webinar for you. How would you increase sustainable visibility and promote participation from guests and staff at hotels?
Yeah, so I think that the most effective way to increase sustainable visibility is through clear, transparent data and simple messaging. So for travelers, I think that means accurate and comparable information at the time of booking. So like we were talking about before, I think it's going to become more and more common to have sustainability data at point of sale, and having data there that's accurate, comparable, and clear is very helpful. And also, once they're at the property, I would highlight the initiatives that have real impact during the stay, and avoid greenwashing and overclaiming. Be really honest, transparent, and clear. And for staff, I think it's important to make sure they understand how their day-to-day actions really matter and add up, and make sustainability a normal part of the daily operations and decision making.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I know it's not often easy on the ground to implement such things, but
Yeah, absolutely.
counts.
That is very true.
Yeah, it all
But
counts to
every
the
small
picture.
step gets there.
Exactly. Again, please feel free to put your questions into the Q&A. Okay, we've got a question from Linda. Thank you so much, Linda. Is an integration with C-Vent transient planned as well?
Yeah, so I can answer that one. Yes, it is. We're waiting for the conversation is there. We're just waiting for the technical integration to happen. However, already today, you could technically go in and answer the GBTA questions because that's what they would use. The direct connection is not there, but you'll be able to answer the questions, export the data, and then send it over to them in that format. Obviously, we want to move to a world where Excel's do not happen. And that's where we will be closely building the connection directly with them.
Thanks, Jazz. I've got another question previously submitted. What happens when a framework like GBTA updates its questions? Do we have to redo all the answers that we've already submitted?
So there's two layers to that. First of all, as soon as any framework update or any framework updates their questions, because would immediately implement this, this is not a long tail. We would update the questions right away. And most likely in the next round, because RFP seasons happen every year, the data needs to be new and most relevant. We would ask for you to collect that data in that process if we don't already have it. Now, as I mentioned, RFP is just one angle and because. So in most cases, we would already have this data from potentially having reported it if you're using it for certifications, compliance reports. So we would just simply reuse that. But if we don't have it, we would ask you to submit it.
Thank you. Jennifer, if you don't mind, another one for you. Do buyers distinguish between self-reported data and third-party verified data? So does a certification matter?
The short answer is yes. Buyers do distinguish, but it's not necessarily an either or. So self-reported data is often really a necessary and important starting point, especially at the property level, because you have to start somewhere. And first, like learning to collect the data is an important step. But buyers do tend to place more confidence in information that's supported by recognized third-party certifications for very clear reasons, because it helps build trust and consistency. As I mentioned before, I think there's also a little bit of labels aren't always enough on their own. Buyers really want to understand what those certifications mean and how they translate into real environmental performance. So a couple of tiered level answer.
Great, thanks so much.
Yeah.
We have a question from Lisa. Thanks, Lisa. Are place or destination specific data points integrated, or is it that primarily driven by the buyers? It seems like a great opportunity to raise awareness amongst the buyer pool of how suppliers are addressing locally defined development priorities.
My question is this for because, or is this for the Hospitality Sustainability Index? Maybe Jennifer, you can talk a little bit about how you take local destination parameters, and you mentioned it a bit with China and France, how you compare those.
Yeah.
Maybe speak a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like when you're looking at hotels, like where the hotel is located is really an essential piece of information, because the energy grid in each country and in states within the US and Canada can vary greatly. So when we calculate emissions and when we make the hotel sustainability index, we always consider where the property is located, and we use the carbon intensity of the grid where it's located to determine the emissions. But then this becomes another problem when you start trying to compare hotels on a global level, because as I mentioned on the hotel sustainability index slide, you really can't compare a hotel that's in France that has quite a clean grid with a lot of nuclear energy to a country that has a pretty carbon intensive coal energy grid. So our solution for that is kind of making it a double step. So in one way, we do look at your absolute emissions, which is the total amount, but we also look at relative emissions. And relative emissions really compares how you're doing against peers in the same market. So hotels within the same country who are operating with the same set of constraints. Does that maybe answer the question? Hopefully.
I assume yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Lisa, please unmute. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
sorry,
Okay.
I have a microphone. I have power. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah, I'm wildly typing in the side here. Hi, thanks for that. Yeah, Jennifer, that makes total sense. I get it. I think I was kind of like, I'm just trying to, I don't know, push the boundaries a bit here and wonder, I'm sort of looking beyond, you know, the carbon footprint and the typical very narrow green metrics that people are talking about. We're exploring this a lot in the region I'm based in, and you know, businesses are doing such incredible things, and they feel like that maybe buyers aren't considering where their highest impact work is happening. So that's where I'm going with that. Thanks.
Okay, so you mean like things outside of like emissions, like other initiatives that aren't being considered?
Yes, definitely. Locally defined kind of, you know, this is our priority.
Yeah.
Let us shout about it, please.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's definitely a weak spot because, like I said, like one issue is too that we try to pull in all the information, but the information has to be available and comparable. So I think like if it's a very local initiative, it might be like raising that to people or to making it out there so people know that it should be considered. But I guess
Yeah, I mean,
without more like information on exactly what it is, it's tough.
yeah. I can
Yeah.
add to that a bit,
Mhm.
and just to share our perspectives on it, because we've been slightly, working on how destinations play a role in the whole sustainability adoption piece as well. And in that, obviously, priorities would be a very essential thing to say, well, for this destination, this is the priority, and this is how they're addressing it. Just like a hotel chain would say that this is our priorities in this hotel chain, and this is how we're addressing it on a global scale. There's a lot of different aspects to that. One, it requires the destinations to share that data so that it's crystallized, so that we can share it with the likes of Advito to map that in. But it's definitely, I would say, on the point, Lisa, that you say, pushing the boundaries, definitely an area to explore that. How do we ensure that that type of information is also available in such decisions? So definitely food for thought.
Yeah, I agree. Very interesting and a great point.
Thanks so much, Lisa. We have one more one more minute, so time for one more question. Jazz, how does Because integrate with existing systems, existing software systems that we potentially might use in our hotel chain?
Yeah, definitely. So, whenever we onboard a different hotel chain or work with a hotel, the first step is always to look at what data is already available on a chain level. Now, in many hotel chains, they have data lakes, APIs, integrations that we can simply connect to. Our platform functions in an open API infrastructure, which basically means we're able to connect to almost everything. In a concrete example, we work with Radisson Hotel Group. In their case, we're connected to their data lake. A lot of the data comes from there and gets pre-filled on the hotel's account profiles. So they can just simply see what data is already there, what questions are already been answered, and then answer the remaining ones. So we connect. The first step is connecting, making sure that hotels don't report for no reason when the data is already there.
Amazing. Thank you. Saving time and a huge administration around collecting that data. How awesome. So I think if there isn't anything else in the Q&A tab, we will wrap it up. I would just ask you, implore you to please kindly look in the chat, and there's a post-webinar survey link there. We are constantly trying to improve these webinars. We're trying to make them valuable to you guys, the attendees. So any feedback you have would be greatly appreciated, so we can just get better and better at this and not waste anybody's time. But thank you so much to Jennifer Klein from Advito for giving us such valuable stuff from the TMC world. And of course, Jazz, thank you so much. And you will hear from us. And if anyone would like to reach out, there's our team email address, and you will get an email with all our details. And please book a demo if you'd like to hear more. Otherwise, thank you so much, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye.